Hello, this is the Mushroom Wizard, and I am returning once again with another presentation regarding the mushrooms found in Saskatchewan and the ways in which we go about identifying and picking those mushrooms. So today, once again, we're looking at some of the agarics that are found in Saskatchewan, and we're going to be looking at mushrooms that are larger than we generally expect mushrooms to be when we find them. So this is the massive mushrooms of Saskatchewan. And we've already looked at some very large species such as the giant puffball, which may very well be the largest of all the mushrooms in Saskatchewan, at least the edible ones. So the genre that we will be looking at will be Agaricus, Leucopaxillus, Neolentinus, Stropharia, and Tricoloma. And what should you expect from this presentation? So agaric mushrooms, that is a mushroom that has a cap, a stipe underneath the cap, and then gills that are underneath the cap there that produce the spores. And then these are edible mushrooms that exceed 8 inches in cap diameter and or height. And then, of course, these are also mushrooms where a single mushroom will usually feed your family if you find a larger one. So the first mushroom we're going to look at is simply called the prince, mainly because this was a meal fit for a prince. This is Agaricus nanagustus. Some guidebooks will say Agaricus augustus. That is a European species. Here we would have Agaricus nanagustus or something similar to that. So the cap is light brown to orangish brown to golden brown. And then the margin, as you can see there, the margin rimming around the cap there is white. So this is convex. It flattens out with age. It is fibrillose. So it has dense scaling that is almost raised and almost like you're feeling a carpet when you run your hand across it. And then the scaling becomes denser with age. The margin is smooth or appendiculate. And appendiculate, if you recall, is where you have veil fragments hanging down around the circumference of the cap that are left over from when the cap started to flatten and ripped away from a partial veil that would have been protecting the gills. So this cap regularly exceeds 9 inches in diameter. Here's a size reference. It's a big, big mushroom. And there as well, you can see the margin of this mushroom is quite appendiculate. You can see all those veil fragments. The gills are pink, becoming chocolate brown with age, which is what you can expect from any Agaricus species. They are free from the stipe, and you can see that there as well. They are not touching the stipe. They are crowded. Short gills are present, but not in crazy quantities. When younger, this is covered by a thick and scaled partial veil, and then it produces a chocolate brown spore print. And there is that partial veil. You can see that it actually has scaling upon it. The stipe is white to off-white. It is cylindrical or clavate. A clavate, if you recall, is where your thinnest point is at the apex, and then it gradually becomes thicker, and then is thickest at the base. It has a central attachment to the cap. It is solid. It stains pale red or pink with bruised or damaged. And then it has this shaggy scaling that becomes more pronounced at the base. You can see that very clearly there as well. And then it's up to about 6 inches high and 2 inches thick at its thickest point, which would be down at the base. It has a very noticeable annulus. That is a pendant annulus, is skirt-like. Very thick. If you look underneath, you should still be able to see those scales. And then it turns yellow with age. This is a saprobic mushroom. It's found in forests, especially in grassy areas within the forest and along the margins and along paths that have been made into the forest. It is preferential to forest duff that involves spruce. So anywhere where you have thick, like decaying spruce needles as well as small sticks in older growth forests, this is where you're likely to find this. It is terrestrial, as you can imagine. They are solitary to scattered, so you're usually not going to find great numbers of these. You might find one or maybe a couple, but that's okay because they're so freaking big. And these occur summer through fall and are somewhat uncommon, as these large mushrooms tend to be. It is choice. There's a dinner plate for you. Look at the mushroom. Wow. That's a very big meal. It's like basically like you're eating a superior version of the classic button mushroom or portobello, but stronger in terms of its taste. It also smells of almonds. That's a nice smell to have with your cooking. And these are for intermediate mushroom pickers. What a lovely meal that would be. Next, we're going to look at the exact opposite. Not so lovely of a meal. These are kind of gross. This is the giant funnel, Leucopaxillus giganteus. So the cap is off-white to tan with age. It is convex, flattening out and becoming depressed or funnel-shaped with age. You can see that funnel shape happening there. It's got like that cup, and those margins will actually go even further upwards and make it very deep. If you run your finger across it, it is smooth. The margin itself is also smooth, becoming wavy and kind of scalloped and ragged over age. And then these are huge, huge mushrooms. It's up to 22 inches in diameter. Look at that. I mean, this guy needed a bigger ruler. And as you can imagine, that's almost like having a tarp. So anything that falls from the trees or anything in the forest is just going to get stuck on there, kind of in the middle. So the gills are cream, becoming tan or pinkish brown with age. They are decurrent, running partways down the stipe. They are crowded together. Short gills are fairly frequent. You can see several lengths. And then this has a white spore print. This is also the same mushroom that's sometimes called Clitocybe gigantea or maxima, the giant funnel, same common name. So the stipe is cream to pinkish tan. It is cylindrical, so the same width throughout. Has a central attachment to that cap. Is smooth, 5 inches high, 1 inch thick. So these are saprobic mushrooms. They are terrestrial. They are found in deciduous and mixed forests. They are solitary to gregarious, sometimes forming massive rings. And these are found summer throughout the fall. These are poor edibles, massive. They will feed everybody, but the taste is often mealy, and it's often full of bugs when you pick them very big. So if you can pick them late fall when it's quite cool out, you might have better results here. And this would be for advanced mushroom pickers, as any white Clitocybe should be. Though really, you can't confuse something that large with much else. So this is the wine cap, Stropharia rugoso annulata, that we're looking at here. This mushroom is very commonly cultivated. It is a delicious mushroom. So it is wine red, and it goes through this very interesting color change. Okay, usually when you have a mushroom that changes color with age, it's usually some variant upon its original color. But this is like almost like a violet wine red, sort of purplish color when young. But then it fades to yellowish brown with age as it reaches maturity and opens up. So very different look to it. It is convex and it flattens out with age. This is a smooth mushroom, sometimes cracking with age or becoming areolate. And when I say aerulate, um, that is the same quality that you would see in uh, a very shallow mud puddle that is drying in the sun, and then it dries and then it cracks. That's the look that you would expect from that. The margin is smooth or appendiculate, becoming wrinkled with age. Then it's up to about 7 inches in diameter, if not bigger. So right on the margin of a large mushroom that what we could expect from a massive mushroom. Here are some size references for you. So a very good mushroom for the table for sure. And here as well, we have that color change. So very different from the purplish red that we were seeing before. This is a very, very light color that it turns. So the gills are pale gray, becoming purple, then purplish black with age. They are adnate, so they dip down. You can't see it very well here, but they reach across and just touch that stipe, and they are crowded together. The short gills are present, not overwhelming, and then there's a purplish black spore print on this mushroom. There's the spore print for you. So that stipe is white, becoming tan with age. It is cylindrical to clavate. So if you recall, clavate is kind of like a club shape. It has a central attachment to the cap, and it grows up to about 5 inches high and 1 inch thick. There's that annulus. It is flaring. It has a distinctive cogwheel pattern, and that's what you would have seen as well on the partial veil. And you can see that it's also got a form of double lip that we're looking at there. And what's flaring out is the cogwheel portion of that pattern itself, of that veil. These are saprobic mushrooms. They are terrestrial. These are preferential to urban areas with wood chips, and other times they are occurring in dried riverbeds. See, as you can imagine, this is a very popular mushroom to cultivate because you do it outdoors and you do it in areas with wood chips, and often people will have wood chips in their flower beds and such, and they can be cultivated right there. These also go by the name of the garden giant. They are scattered to gregarious. Sometimes they will clump together. They are found summer through fall. These are choice mushrooms. Like I said, they're often cultivated. It's an easy one to do here. I've talked to several people that have done it. I plan to do it at some point in the future as well. And these are for intermediate mushroom pickers. So here's a lookalike alert. At its later stage coloration, it can be very easily confused for Habuloma crustalliniform, which is the poison pie mushroom. Further, the other poison pies look just the same as this, but they have a darker colored cap. So those can also be confused for a younger wine cap. And that mushroom will make you very sick if you eat it. It likely will not kill you, but you won't like the results. The next mushroom is an interesting mushroom, and it's not very common at all. This is the giant sawgill, Neolentinus ponderosus. So the cap is tan to gray to pale pink. It has very pronounced large scales that are raised. They are brown in color, so that would give it a very rough feel to it. It is convex, flattening out, and sometimes developing a central depression, as you see it doing there. The profile can be round. More often it will be eccentric, like what you're seeing here. Looking straight down on that mushroom, I would not call that a circle. The margin is downrolled and sometimes remains downrolled even after flattening out. It is a very solid mushroom, very firm. It's up to about 15 inches in diameter, so a very large mushroom. Here's some size references for you. The gills are cream, becoming tan with age. They're adnate, so they reach across and touch that stipe. They are very close together, and they are serrated. So you can see that happening here, hence the name Sawgill, because they are finely serrated, kind of like a hacksaw. There are short gills present, not in large amounts though, and this produces a white spore print. The stipe is white, becoming tan with age. It is covered in raised white scales, and those scales will become reddish brown with age. They are cylindrical, so basically the same width throughout. They have a central, an eccentric, or a lateral attachment. So at times, these can actually attach to the side. So very much the same as what you'd see with some of the oyster mushrooms. This is a firm stipe, very solid. That thick one there would be hard to break. You'd want to cut through that with a knife. And then these are up to about 7 inches long and up to 2 inches thick. These are saprobic. These grow directly on decaying conifers. They are preferential to pine, so look for these around areas where jack pine is growing, or if you're down in the southwest portion of the province, lodgepole pine as well. They are solitary, sometimes scattered, but usually very solitary. They are found summer through fall, and they're quite rare in Saskatchewan. They're relatively uncommon throughout all of their range. You will not find it very often. They are choice edibles. They have a mild taste. This is a gigantic meal for the whole family, and these are for intermediate mushroom pickers. And finally, we have the white pine mushroom. I believe that's what we have here. We have a pine mushroom. I'm pretty sure it's Trichiloma magnivelare. There's several others that it could be, but they all look fairly similar. So this, I will say as well, is one of the most commercially important mushrooms there is. They are sold. They are picked in Saskatchewan and sold as well, alongside morels and chanterelles. So the cap is off-white to tan in color. They develop these brown scales and fibrillous kind of scaling as well. That's kind of like what you feel when you feel like a synthetic carpet. It is convex, flattening with age. The margin is enrolled, sometimes becoming wavy as it surpasses maturity. And then these grow up to 8 inches in diameter, though usually a bit smaller than that. Here are some size references for you. It's a very solid, dense mushroom. They would have quite a bit of weight to them. These are off-white in color in terms of the gills. They develop red spots with age. It is sinuate to adnext in terms of its connection to the stipe. Here we see it being adnext, where it simply dips down. The gills are crowded together. Short gills are frequent. This is covered with a thick partial veil when young, and you can see the ring left over there. Then this produces a white spore print, as everything in the Trichiloma genus does. So the stipe is white above the ring and then brownish below the ring. And it is cylindrical to clavate. And you can see cylindrical on the left and then clavate on the right. And above the ring, it is very smooth. Below, it is scaled and heavily fibrillose with those kind of hair-like scales. It's a very solid stipe. If you recall the presentation on the night mushrooms of Saskatchewan, breaking that stipe would be like breaking a carrot. That's how dense these mushrooms can be. They're up to about 4 inches high and 1 inch thick. The annulus is a sheathing annulus, so it's comprised of almost like a membrane that comes up from the base of the stipe and then attaches to the margins of the cap when young, and then when it rips apart, it just leaves this this ragged area that kind of flares outwards at the top, and then exposes the actual stipe, which is white and smooth. So in Saskatchewan, these are mycorrhizal with pine and tamarack, so larch, in other words, as well as the jack pine that is fairly common in the province. They are terrestrial. They are preferential to areas with moss and a lot of pine debris, and they are also found late fall. So expect to find this halfway through September and into October. They're fairly solitary or scattered. These are choice mushrooms. They are of significant commercial value in Asia, which is where these are shipped to when they are sold. They have a very unique odor, which is spicy yet pleasantly foul. Some people have described it as a combination of cinnamon and used socks. They are used in many Asian dishes. And then these are for intermediate mushroom pickers. Here is a look-alike that you should be aware of. That is the rooting poison pie on the right, which also has the same sort of stipe. And that's everything. So this is the Mushroom Wizard. I hope you enjoyed this presentation on some of our larger offerings in Saskatchewan. And have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you.